The latest Pompey news, updates every day from the Pompey Sound news desk.
Remember those reports from earlier this year that Pompey had a £4.25 million January deal agreed for a player also being watched by Burnley, Brighton and Wolves? With his name once again at the centre of transfer gossip, here's the latest on where things stand. The player everyone's talking about is Gambian international Abdoulaye Mane. He's in high demand, and with Pompey likely looking to add some firepower this January, it's a name that keeps coming up. The thing is, they'll face stiff competition. The race for his signature looks like it's going to be a crowded one when the window opens in just 10 days. The 21-year-old first caught Pompey's eye last summer after a standout season with his Swedish side Mjällby, and was definitely an option the club considered. One report back in September even went as far as to suggest the Blues had already signed the talented attacker, with a deal lined up for the new year. John Messinho quickly shut that rumour down, confirming no pre-contract had been agreed, although the Pompey boss admitted he was aware of the player. If the Blues do want to go back in for Mane next month, it looks like they'll have to dig deep. The Eisners know the squad needs strengthening to solidify their championship ambitions, but Mane's price tag is steep. After racking up 9 goals and 3 assists on the way to the Allsvenskan title, he's been valued at around £4.25 million, attracting interest from the likes of Wolves, Burnley, and Brighton. Championship leaders Coventry City seem to be in pole position, with talk of a £4 million offer being made last month. Then Stoke City reportedly entered the race, with reports from Africa claiming they'd blown Coventry's offer out of the water with a much larger bid. This transfer saga keeps developing. The latest talk is that a new Premier League side has joined the chase, with Bournemouth being the name mentioned. It's understood that negotiations with Coventry were put on hold while that interest is explored, though it's still possible that talks with the Sky Blues could resume. Messinho himself has been blunt in shutting down any talk of a done deal. When asked about the rumours, he said, "There's nothing in that at all, and we've definitely not signed him. I've heard of him, but we've not had any conversations about him whatsoever. There's no pre-contract, so that is something you can dismiss. Since the back end of the window, we've not done anything at all. Given the level of interest and the figures being thrown around, it seems landing Mane would require Pompey to spend well beyond their current means." Last summer's signings, like Luke Leroux, Josh Knight, and Mark Koshnowski, were in the region of £1 million. Even the £1.27 million spent on Hayden Matthews from Sydney FC in January, the club's biggest fee since signing Eric Huseklepp for £1.5 million back in 2011, is a long way short of what it would take to get Mane.
We had a good look at him back in the summer. He's quick, he's got good skills, he's laying the ball off better and better. He's got an eye for goal. He scored one particularly spectacular one, top corner from outside the box, particularly eye-catching. They always are, but he's not doing that all day, every day. Is he 4.5 million? Who knows? Who knows? People who know far more about football than the likes of myself and indeed, dare I say it, yourself, good listener, will have to make that judgment. And if they've had a call about him, the Eisners will have asked, he might cost us 4 million, will he be worth 14 million in 2 years' time, which is a reasonable question to ask and a good bit of business if that's what's going on. But it puts a spring in our step, doesn't it, to think that there is a possibility that we've got our eyes on somebody who is rated a 4 million. Wide player he is, not particularly big, but not diminutive either, 5'10", and only 21. So he's got a lot going for him. So that's Abdoulaye Mane, a possibility in January.
Portsmouth look likely to be in a relegation battle this season, and the return of Callum Lang from injury comes at a good time. Portsmouth are having a tough second season in the Championship. Pompey have been incredibly inconsistent this term, and are struggling to pick up any real form. John Messinho's side did get a valuable point against Derby County last weekend, but with 1 win in 5 games, the possibility of relegation is looming. The South Coast side sit 21st in the table, just 2 points off the bottom 3. Pompey's chances of survival have been boosted though, with the return of Callum Lang. The 27-year-old suffered a hamstring injury after the second game week of the campaign and was sidelined for 12 weeks. Lang has played the full 90 minutes in his last 2 appearances and has scored in both fixtures. His form last season was crucial for Portsmouth retaining their championship status, and he could be responsible again this term if he can continue his scoring record for Mousinho's side. Along with Josh Murphy, Lang was a crucial reason as to why Portsmouth enjoyed relative success in their first season back in the Championship. The 27-year-old scored 10 goals and provided 2 assists in only Pompey have significantly struggled to score goals this campaign. They are the second lowest scorers in the division and have lacked that cutting edge in the final third, which they possessed last term. Lang's goal contributions were vital last season, and Mousinho will need the attacker to replicate his numbers again if they are to avoid the drop to League One. If he can stay fit for the remainder of the term, Portsmouth's attackers have not been able to back up their impressive stats from last campaign at all. Colby Bishop scored 11 times last term, but has only found the net once so far this season. The injury to Lang didn't help Pompey get off to a good start, but his return should bring some quality to the attacking areas. Adrian Segujic and Murphy have been the most impressive attacking outlets for Pompey this term, but another is needed to have the best chance of survival. Defensively, Mousinho's side look competent with only 28 goals conceded, but 18 goals scored is an abysmal record. If Portsmouth fail to recruit a new frontman in January, a relegation fight is the most likely outcome.
The jury is actually out on the benefits, the value, or otherwise, of being a one-man team. If your one man is Maradona, go right up to the top. If your one man is Maradona or Messi or Ronaldo, I don't suppose you mind being a bit of a one-man team, although, of course, they always had some spectacularly successful and capable players around them. So maybe there is no such thing as a one-man team, just one man who takes all the focus. In any case, we don't have to consider ourselves a one-man team at the moment because if we were a one-man team up until very recently, that one man was Josh Murphy. So effectively, we are, if you like, a two-man team. And that is absolutely no bad thing when it comes to two men who are capable of banging the ball in the back of the net, which is what we want. So if we're a two-man team or a one-man team and they box and cocks it, who cares? As long as they keep bulging the net.
Hayden Matthews spoke about his growing fitness and strength after the Derby game.
It's always my calves. It's been good to get consistent minutes. I feel like I'm at that point where my body feels able to continue to build and play 90 minutes each and every week. It's going to be a tough period coming up now, so I'm going to have to look after my body really well, but very happy to get through the whole 90 minutes today. It's a strange one. The start of my season was quite rocky, not really getting minutes here, and then gone away with the national team, a lot of travel, a lot of everything, different scenarios and things going on which led to a lack of minutes. I think my first game of the season, the Stoke one, I started to cramp up around the 65th minute, which is way too early in the game to be cramping, but that's just a lack of match minutes. I feel like now my body has gotten through a full 90 now, and a lot of games. It was my first double game week last week and cramped up at the very end, but my body feels good now. As a footballer, you want to be playing, right? But coming back to pre-season, I didn't have a lot of an off-season. I started running on the last day of the season, so the whole of the off-season was about building my fitness up to come back to pre-season fit enough. And then pre-season came, it hit me like a truck. I was just getting through sessions, didn't really have any issues with my ankle, but it was just fitness-wise I was just hanging in there. To now be back in the side is exactly where I want to be. It's been very character building without being in the side and being around the boys because you want the team to be doing well, right? Always for me it's about supporting the boys and making sure I'm doing the right things. I've been working hard with the coaching staff, doing extras, doing everything I can to improve on certain areas of my game that I needed working on, and the coaching staff felt needed working on. I've seen a big improvement in that, being more dominant in the air, attacking the ball better, being composed and just show what I can do on the ball. Confidence hasn't really been an issue. Playing consistent minutes, you start to get a feel for the game with everything going on.
Now, that's all good to hear, isn't it? And it's good to hear that the player believes he's improving, wants to improve. And we can see, can't we, in how he performs that he is improving. It was a good showing against the big Derby number 9. He gave as good as he got. He's as quick as he needs to be, but he's dominant in the air. And that's very much what he needs to be good at, as well as everything else. He's good on the ball. That's been emphasised in the past by John Mousinho, and he mentioned it there himself. So his job is to keep fit. And whatever he was doing that led him to not be quite as fit as he or Pompey wanted him to be, he needs to adjust or basically knock it on the head. And I'm not suggesting that he's been going out and having a couple of pints every night and that that's not a good idea. Top pros nowadays pretty much abstain because there's so much at stake and they watch their diet to the point of being bored with all that poached chicken. However, if it's what you've got to do to make it all the way to the top, and there's no reason to assume anything other than that is an ambition of his, then you just got to do it and knuckle down. And if it means no more nights out, then it means no more takeaways, then so be it.
John Messino has been speaking about a tricky decision lying in wait in January, when he and the recruitment team will have to make a judgment as to whether the club needs to bring in another centre-half. More on that story in just a moment. In the eyes of many, the club face an even bigger dilemma over whether or not to recruit an additional left-back. In the absence of Connor Ogilvie, Pompey have tried to play two out-of-position defenders, Williams and Swanson, as left-back and have been endlessly frustrated by the unavailability of young Australian Jacob Farrell. Farrell's appearances for Pompey just after his arrival impressed, but has barely been seen since. It was rumoured that the club were building him up physically, but even if true, the benefits of such a regime are yet to be seen. Much depends on how quickly Ogilvie can return to full match fitness, and whether he is able to maintain that level of fitness throughout the rest of the season. He's missed more than a handful of games so far this season, through no fault of his own, and there is no question that the rugged left-back is in no way injury-prone. We need him fit and available, or perhaps need a stand-in who matches Ogilvie's prowess in the number 3 shirt. It will be interesting to see what develops in that department in January. Returning to the issue of recruiting an extra centre-half, Messino is saying this.
Whether we sign another central defender depends on the injury situation come January 1st, that's the only way we can put it. Against Blackburn we had Ashton Sizer on the bench, and we had 3 senior centre-halves out of action. That picture changed slightly at the weekend. We've got one back. Connor Shaughnessy is close to being back, Josh Knight is close to being back, and Ibane isn't far, but I don't know how quickly that is going to change. Across the 5 of them, there have been injury worries over either the short-term or long-term over the past 18 months. It's the same with all of the spots. We've got to be fluid and flexible with them. We're trying to build up a solid bank of games. Regan has been the most consistent in terms of availability and his playing time this year. With the others, Ibane and Hayden have come back from long-term injuries, and for them to be fit for pretty much all of the season has been a positive.
Pompey aren't alone in having an injury crisis, and we've been having an ongoing injury crisis for far too long now. So I think the powers that be need to start having a think about what they can do to improve that situation. One thing that will help clubs, I think, is if the maximum squad number of players is increased, so that if clubs can bring in more players who are available and who therefore are fit, then that will mean that there's not so many imbalanced games with clubs crying out for players to play in their proper position, but instead they're having to make do with players playing makeshift, make and do stuff out of position, and it's not good for the game, and it's not good for their bodies either. And on a radical note, I think there should be a growing clamour for an investigation into the possibility of doing 2 things to ease the game and make it even more beautiful. Both of them quite radical, but they are as follows. 1, reduce the number of players per team to 10 from 11, opening up the pitch, giving ball players a better opportunity to show what they can do, because at the moment they're just swamped everywhere on the pitch. And 2, thinking about doing away with the offside rule. We don't need it. How it would open the game up. We'd have to have some trial matches involving top teams, decent players, playing without any kind of offside rule at all, and see what it does to the scoreline, see what it does to the excitement, see what it does to the players who will start to play a different type of football. They could get exhausted when there's only 10 players on the pitch, and they could get exhausted having to cover more of the pitch, because a lot of the pitch that at the moment is denied them because of the offside rule will become available to them. But it would be interesting, useful and fun to see how those 2 suggestions benefit the game and benefit the individuals who play the game and cut down the amount of time they're spending on the medical table.